She is the author of Poisoning the Well, How Forever Chemicals Contaminated America. And she's also the Hill's energy and environment reporter, Rachel Frazin. Thank you so much for being here, Rachel. All right, so we were just talking about your book in the break. Here it is, and we've got it on the full screen as well. First, I want to ask you, what made you want to write this book?
Well, thank you so much for having me. I think the biggest thing that really made me want to get started on that was just seeing that the CDC was estimating that these chemicals are in the bloodstream of at least 97% of Americans. I think that was something that really woke me up to the fact that this is not, a niche problem. This is a problem of widespread, wide-scale contamination that's impacting probably everybody that we know.
That's wild. I was looking at those numbers. Government studies of private wells and public water supplies have said that these chemicals are in nearly half of Americans' tap water. I mean, that's pretty alarming. And we also are talking about these limits. So what could these weakened limits mean for our everyday drinking water? I just threw out a lot of letters and numbers. What does it mean? Well, how can we understand this?
Sure. So the EPA is doing two major things. First, they are delaying Biden-era requirements to filter out some of these chemicals, right? So under the Biden rules, water utilities would have had to install filtration technology by 2029. The EPA is giving them until 2031. So that means that people who have this contamination will be drinking water with PFAS in it, with these forever chemicals, for 2 extra years. The other thing that they're doing is that they are sort of stripping, at least for the time being, 4 of these chemicals out of the rule. So, there are thousands of these chemicals, and sometimes they do occur together. But, if you have, one of those 4 that's being stripped out, but not the other 2 that are still in the rule, then, you might not get water filters at all. Your water utility might not have to filter them out whatsoever. And so the EPA says that it's undergoing a reconsideration for those 4, so they might add limits back in eventually, but it's not clear when.
Let's talk about this book, Poisoning the Well, your new book. And again, congratulations on this. Tell us about the details that people are going to find in this book. You've done a lot of research, and people really need to look. We're always talking about what we're putting in our bodies. So what can you tell us about what we'll learn in this book?
So my co-author Sharon and I really dug into 4 specific communities. That's a community in Alabama, a community in Colorado, a community in Maine, and a community in North Carolina. And we sort of use those communities to tell the broader story of these chemicals that are, inside each one of us. We look at, industrial contamination, from when they use these chemicals in products, what that means, for the people who live downstream from the factories where they make them. We look at, the military discharges of these chemicals and people who live downstream from military bases where they used these chemicals and sort of sprayed this firefighting foam into the environment, didn't really clean it up.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, we look at farmers in Maine who have spread it as sludge across their farmlands and, look at how it might be getting into the food supply, but also how it's really ruined these people's livelihoods.
Wow. What's the most shocking thing that you discovered that you wrote about in your book?
Oh, gosh, there's so much. I think that, one of the things for me that was, really jarring and really appalling was when I visited North Carolina. I met with this community that was an underserved, historically Black and low-income community, and they were sort of first starting to get their hands around the problem. And when I went, I think a lot of people, was just seeing sort of this outsider person. It really, raised alarm bells for some people, and so they started counting cancer cases. And in this small community, they found 130 cases of cancer.
Wow, that's wild. And we were also talking, I think a lot of people, have their filters on the refrigerator, right? The tap water goes through the refrigerator filter, and then I'm okay, right? I mean, that's what you hope for. And when you talk about that, is that something that you look at? I mean, what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, well, that's absolutely how it should be, right? That, we should just get to have clean, safe drinking water, but that's not always the case. And, because these chemicals are so widespread and in so many drinking water systems, it's unlikely that your water is filtered out enough unless you're either on a water utility that has the proper filtration, if you install a whole house filter, or if your refrigerator filter uses one of a few different kinds of technologies, including something called, granular activated carbon. So if you look and your filter is that kind, you're probably okay. But if it's not, then, most water filters are not good enough.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.